In the rich and beautiful valleys of the Pacific Northwest, the soil and climate combine to make the area an important center of America's apple growing industry. From orchards nestled in these valleys come apples, large, firm, and red, perhaps the most popular fruit in our part of the world. Our story is of a particular variety called the delicious apple. And this is how an orchard of these apples begins. The seeds used to start the orchard are from another type of apple tree. They are planted because they produce stronger, hardier roots than delicious seeds produce. These seedling trees are 6 months old. Loosening the soil helps the roots grow big and healthy. The trees in this group are grown only for their buds, which will be grafted into the hardy young trees with the strong, healthy roots. The bud at the base of the leaf is carefully cut and then taken to the new orchard. A slit is made in the bark of the seedling tree and the bud placed inside. It will grow to become the trunk of a fruit-bearing tree. This rubber band holds the bud and the bark firmly in place, so the slit will heal and the bud begin to grow. As the young trees grow, some of the branches are cut away. This is called pruning. Only the small branches are pruned, leaving the larger limbs to grow and flower. This is a dry region, so the orchards must be irrigated with water pumped from nearby wells and rivers. April is apple blossom time, and the blooming orchards turn the valleys into fairylands of beautiful colors and delicate perfumes. Blossoms in the spring are a sign of apples in the fall. When there are plenty of blossoms, apple growers expect a large crop. Here is one of the apple grower's best friends, a ladybug. She eats small, leaf-destroying insects called aphids. Another friend of the fruit farmer is the bee. As the bees travel from blossom to blossom looking for sweet, they carry pollen which fertilizes the trees. That's why thousands of beehives are brought into the orchards every spring. Some pollinating is done by the farmer himself. In this process, workers first gather the pollen by hand. Then, after the blossoms and buds are picked, they're placed in sieves, where they're crushed to obtain the pollen. The girls are paid by the amount of pollen they gather, so it is carefully measured. Hand pollinating is done in many ways. This is a hand pole. The atomizer is filled with pollen and then sprayed out the nozzle of the pole on the blossom. Here's another method. This girl touches the blossoms with a small brush dipped in the pollen she carries in her pocket. Bees and other insects take care of most of the pollinating, while farmers do only a small part of the work by hand, but they find it pays them well. By midsummer, the apples are half grown, and it's time to thin them. This way, the growers get larger, better quality apples at harvest time. Thinned apples aren't wasted. They're gathered for feed or left to rot and enrich the soil. The growing apples become so heavy, the branches must be propped or they will break. Special poles are used to brace the limbs. The props will be left in place until the apples are picked. Apple growers must protect the orchards from insects and other pests. Scientists have developed many sprays and dusts which kill insects, strengthen tree branches, and protect the fruit. Here's one of the newest and most spectacular methods of dusting. This helicopter, with its hoppers full of insecticide, can dust many acres in a matter of minutes. Hand spraying is effective too. This particular spray will strengthen the stems so the apples won't fall off before being picked. Each orchard is sprayed many times throughout the season. By autumn, the apples are fully grown, and thousands of pickers come into the orchards to harvest the ripe red fruit. Pickers gather the apples just as they mature, so when the fruit reaches the grocer's shelves, it's sweet, good, and ready to eat. Notice the picking bags used by the workers. The canvas bottoms allow the pickers to dump the apples without bruising them. All the apples in one section of the orchard are loaded from one central point. The boxes are only partially filled, so they can be stacked without injuring the top layer of fruit. Special trucks carry the apples to the packing house. Built low and close to the ground, the trucks travel under the branches without injuring the trees. They carry nearly 300 boxes of apples at a time. These boxes are delivered at the packing house. Here the boxes are unloaded on hand trucks and taken inside. Now the apples are poured out on a conveyor belt. The fruit is handled with great care at all times. Bruised apples are wasted apples. Before they can be packed, the apples have to be washed. This belt takes them to a ladder of rollers where the apples are lifted into a tub of soapy water. The bath washes off all dirt and residue left from spraying. After the bath, the clean, shiny apples are brought up a step ladder, which carries them to sorting tables. These girls sort the apples to make sure no bruised or rotten fruit is packed. Constant care is taken to preserve the quality of the apple shipments. Then the apples are carried along to these little trapdoors, which spring at given spots with apples of a given weight. This way, all apples of the same size drop into the same revolving drums. Finally, the apples are packed. Each apple is skillfully wrapped in colored tissue and carefully placed in a box. Then the filled boxes move on conveyor rollers to the nailing machine. As the boxes pass through the machine, tops are dropped into place and automatically nailed on. After the boxes come out of the machine, they're placed on the last conveyor line and taken to the shipping room, where they will be sent out all over the world. Ripe, red, wholesome. Here's the full-grown apple, a product of the planters, the pickers, and the packers of America's apple industry.